Welcome back to the Ambition Over Fear platform. And right now we're in a place where we're breaking free of the limited idea of what a human is, and we're going into the unlimited truth that our soul has a natural vibration of being the universe itself. Now, when you understand anything of quantum physics or consciousness making its way in a role as being the creator, and once you're able to harness your own consciousness, you then can become the creator within your own world. Now, understanding consciousness is always based around the ability to take a step back and observe without your mind and your lower ego, which is an unconscious self-identity that has been comprised of patterns of thinking, beliefs, and emotionalized reactions to things going on around you. Once we start to dive into consciousness, we begin to understand that when we were younger and we watched movies based around magic, or we play video games, or have an interest to the theme of mysticality in everything we do, there's always a hint of abnormality within everything in life. And once we move into a position where we're able to accept that abnormality and go towards it, is the minute we're able to move from being a philosopher and being a spiritualist and moving into a space where we become the alchemist, which is not only someone that understands spiritual knowledge, but it is somebody that can apply spiritual knowledge of the higher dimensions in whatever matrix and dimension that you're currently reincarnating in. The integration is key. Having a knowing that you as a person, you're moving into a position by absorbing and watching content like this, where you're expanding your higher self's connection to your lower self. Your higher self is your soul. It is an awareness of information and a thirst of knowledge that goes beyond what society or what your past or what your trauma is telling you. It is elevating beyond your current position of oppression long enough for you to see that you can control what comes into your experience. And you can allow your brain to start to work for you and not against you. We have to begin to move into a knowing of how to apply the divine masculine and the divine feminine in our daily practices of spirituality and consciousness. The divine feminine is the aspect of the quantum field that is a knowing of the fertility of energy, the power of energy. It is being in your higher self and embodying that love and light to a point where you have non-conditional love for everything you do. You're in a receiving mode where you're not trying to control the aspects of your 3D experience. And when you're not always trying to control based on a lower ego or a way that your mind is programmed to think based on a self-identity that you may have had, you go beyond that and you start receiving guidance from your higher self. And then the minute you let go and you're in reception mode, you realize that every single thing around you is you, because you are consciousness and anything around you is consciousness. And the only way you can experience consciousness is if you speak the same language. The only reason you're able to watch this video now is you have to have the same type of language and communication ingredients in order for my message to be translated to you, and that is language. It's almost as if you go into a house or a party or social event and every single person is speaking French. The writing is French, the TV subtitles are French, The conversations have to do with French politics. In this metaphor, the idea is in order for you to come into this social event and this house and be able to actually interact with the arts on the walls and the TV and the conversations, is for you to be able to communicate on some type of similar level. So the only reason right now that your five senses can pick up on anything around you is you have to have some type of relation to what is giving you that stimulation of your five senses. That relation is consciousness. It's consciousness that allows you to move around beyond your body. A knowing that you are the universe. A knowing that you are your soul. And when you're tapping into past lives or different reincarnations on the same planet or other planets, and alternate forms of life itself, you then move into a position where you're holding a knowing, you're holding an energetic container on that higher level for every single thing that you're downloading from a higher place of wisdom. That's what an ego is. It's a container. Now, your higher ego is simply that knowing of the universe through your soul. Your soul is the lens. Your soul is the lens at which you're actually able to see everything else. That's your idea of self-identity on a higher dimensional level. Now, when you start astral traveling and you start realizing that when you go into your mind during meditation or when you're walking around, if you have the ability to feel beyond the five senses, a lot of people tap into ancient gods and angels and different totems, and they wonder, is this me in another life? Have I reincarnated with any single thing that I am getting contact from? Yes. Because if you have any type of communication with any type of angel or ancient god or starseed system or light codes or energetic downloads, on some level, the only way for you to actually experience it is if you were a vibrational match to it. That's the truth of all of it. Your lower ego, meaning lower and higher is not better and worse. Lower means the container that you have of your soul on this lower dimension, and higher ego is a container of soul that you have on a higher dimension. So you have to understand that you have to be able to have the foundation of this house that is you, your soul that is literally connected to all the dimensions. There's 13 dimensions and you have 13 floors, and the power, the battery that is creating wiring for all the electricity and all the floors comes from up, that 13th floor. So you go all the way down, and at some point you understand that your soul gives you an opportunity to explore the universe and for you to actually play your role in whatever matrix you're in, whatever reincarnation you're experiencing, or whatever galactic embodiment that you're going through at that time. All of these things are connected. That is the idea of quantum entanglement. Every single thing is connected as if you were looking at a web. And whenever one thing on one side of this universal web changes, something else on the completely opposite side, because once again, physical distance is only a 3D thing, and in the lower dimensions, as you go up to pure energy, if everything is connected, then it's almost like sending a message to a friend or family member who's in a different country, in a different continent, and when you send it through the internet, they get it instantly. The universe works just like the internet. It works based on electricity and connection. So your lower ego, which is your body, and the identity and the container of soul that you have while you're here is very important, because it gives your soul a 3D reference. Your higher ego is also very important because it gives the reincarnation of you in this body on earth an understanding and a reference of your true nature, that you're acting in a role, but the actor, which is your soul, can play any role at any time. You are the star once you realize that, but a lot of people get very hung up in the idea of going into their higher ego and not necessarily coming back down, because, you know, in our lower egos, in our human identities and containers of what we believe we are and the world is, sometimes we can go through a lot of trauma and experiences that give us a negative association to this 3D matrix. And then once you go into your higher ego, by, you know, first letting go of the idea that you are just a person in one body and you go to heaven or hell, once you break free of the idea of you being this person, this identity, which is only a story that has been created based on experiences that have happened to you in your body. Now, even though your soul has signed up for every single thing you're going through, so you can evolve past your biggest traumas, and so you can take your biggest problem in all of your human reincarnations and make it a solution, that happens so your soul can evolve, but also so you do your part on earth, and whatever problem you have, as you solve it, it will stop showing up in other reincarnations. You know, if we're talking about our soul reincarnating in different bodies on earth, if you start to understand the reason why psychics and even yourself are able to pick up on that, is because they're tapping into your emotional body, and they're tapping into your biggest passion that is in your soul. Passion, to me, is the idea of striking the water fountain of life and allowing the water to nourish all the grounds around you. It's an idea of full immersion. So the reason why I say our biggest traumas are our biggest passions is because usually on the other side of our trauma is the most powerful tool once we're able to transmute that large amount of negative energy into a large amount of positive energy. Realize that the aspect goes beyond. And if you have a large trauma and a large amount of shadow work around one or two things that keep coming up, realize that if you're looking at your body as if it's a graph, then that specific problem or thing you're working through is holding up a large amount of that graph. So when you transmute a large percent of the graph that is your human system, then you'll be able to take that large percent, and instead of that bringing you lower, it'll bring you higher. That's why when you transmute the worst parts of yourself, and by worst, I am not saying you should judge it. I am not saying that there is an idea of good or bad, because as you go up the dimensional ladder, you realize that everything is just another experience that has a certain cause and effect. But there are things that you have carried through all of your human reincarnations that keep coming up. And the reason why it's so hard to heal it is because you're healing those other reincarnations in those other bodies because of quantum entanglement. Everything is connected. You have a problem and the universe wants to give you a solution. The universe is within you. So you put yourself in different positions, bodies, reincarnations, forms of life, to solve the philosophy of what you're expanding in. And expansion can only happen if we look at the things that are holding back the expansion. So in this video, I want to explain to you how to integrate your lower ego and your higher ego, so you can be more balanced. Okay? So one, understand what the lower ego and higher ego's job is in you having full control over this matrix. Step one is you initially have to let go of the ego. You initially have to let go of the ego you have in this lower dimension, which is your lower ego, which is usually an unconscious story of who you are based on positive and negative experiences that have happened to you during your life. Letting go of that is letting go of the idea that you have no choice in who you are, and letting go of the idea that you are attached to this world and the world that you have created around you based on who you think you are. When you let go of that, when you initially let go of the lower ego, you go through what is called an ego death. And what that means is you're dying as a phoenix. Your soul is in a hard container, and your soul is trying to give you ways to let you know that, hey, you're not just a body, you're a soul inhabiting a body. Right? So, in order for that to happen, your soul will bounce around in this egg called your lower ego. The lower ego is your identity that is tied to what you're going to do in this world, because you may believe that you do have one life here and you have to get these certain things done. That's initially what you have to do in step one, is let go of the idea and the attachment to this physical world. A lot of people who go through issues in mental health have an easier time letting go of their lower ego, because the psychosis creates a separation on a usual basis between them and their body, and they're actually in their spirit. But the issue is it's led with fear, so they don't know that what they're doing can lead to a spiritual awakening. Okay? Step two is understanding that your higher ego is the place that you keep going back to when you're in the universal realm, when you're in meditation, when your mind is wandering, when you're talking to psychics or friends and you hear a word. Say you hear an Egyptian god, or a specific god or person of power in the past, and you feel a sense in your body, you feel a sense of tingling, possibly a sensation of like a very powerful realization happened. And once you start to understand that your higher self, when you're diving into consciousness and your conversations are revolving around how you're learning how to tap into the universe within, how you're expressing your magical powers or your etheric powers, such as being psychic, reading the akashic records, being able to shoot energy out of your hands. All of these things are magical skills, but society and religion has pushed us away from that, because sometimes philosophies get out of hand and people don't necessarily know how to use them for good. And once we get into a position of that, we start to learn that our higher ego is the level of trust that we have when we go into that void in meditation, when we're sitting and manifesting, when we're downloading and channeling a lot of universal wisdom. That container is your higher ego. Your higher ego is your awareness that you are the universe through specific forms that have connection to you. Your higher ego is you understanding what, different alien species you may have became, such as starseeds. That's a higher ego. It's an idea of you embodying a specific purpose for your consciousness. When you're becoming a spiritual teacher or you're wanting to heal somebody, you're having to embody that higher octave energy, and you're having to feel comfortable in it. That's your higher self, that's your soul, that's your higher ego. Now, although at a higher level, we are everything, and at any given point, based on your curiosity or you accepting new energetic downloads that come to you from people or meditations, you can easily choose and decide what your soul wants to evolve into next. What type of alien species, what country do you want to maybe reincarnate into next? What type of people do you want to work with, because you have just found out on a soul level that you're a transcriber or you're a translator of energy. And when you're evolving your higher ego, it's not based on choosing, it's based on allowing. Your higher ego, it's based on receiving. Now, here's how we involve the divine masculine and the divine feminine with the higher ego. So as we're in step 2, you realize that the divine feminine is you receiving whatever soul evolution that is coming your way, and the divine masculine is you knowing that at a higher level you are God, you are goddess, you are angel, you are alien. Your soul is interdimensional. Your soul is eternal. It does not reside on this planet. I need you to know that. And once you do that, with that divine masculine, is you tapping into the universe itself and realizing that you're going to be safe because you are the universe and you will protect yourself. Because on some level you realize that all the etheric entities, angels and gods that protect you, your spirit guides, you allow your higher ego to implement that divine masculine and get protection from them. So step 1 is letting go of your lower ego, and step 2 is realizing what your higher ego is. Now, step 3 is now once you leave your ego and your unconscious story of who you are, and you break free of the idea of you're just a body, and then you go into pure consciousness, and you're able to actually form some type of stability in those higher realms, in some type of identity, not based on a name or a form, but based on you having a security of energy and you continually tapping into different parts of the universe that you resonate with. You're getting patterns of things you're channeling. You're getting patterns of different types of reasons for you to go into those higher realms of consciousness. It's that purpose. Step 3 would be, once you come into that awareness that you're a soul and you have access to different parts of the universe based on your reincarnations and energetic ties. Step 3 is, how do you come back onto Earth? You come back into Earth after you go so high up into the dimensions where you realize that Earth is a lower frequency. A lot of people go into those spiritual realms and the energy is so pure and there's no form of human pain, and they're eternal and they have all the magic in the universe, and they don't want to come back down into Earth, because when they come back down, you have to do the shadow work of your previous lower egos that you embodied before your spiritual awakening. And the reason why a lot of people don't do this is because they think that if they come back down into their lower ego, that they will lose the mystical power and love they felt in their soul. Because when they come back down, they realize they have to deal with a lot of insecurities and things that their lower ego has created, negative thought patterns. So you have to deal with that initially. You have to deal with the shadow work of what was your last association to the planet. A lower ego, a body, is an identity of who are you and what have you done in this planet, what experiences have you had. It creates a sort of archetype. So you have to heal the archetypes of your lower ego. Now what happens is, when you want to manifest and you want to move into a parallel reality, which is a reality of you, where you're already possessing and you're already living out all of your desires. Since energy cannot be created or destroyed, basically, when you're manifesting something, such as wealth or happiness, you are not creating wealth or happiness, but you are jumping into a body that has the subatomic cells and particles that are related to the energy of the universe that you're wanting to pull into by being happy or successful. So in order for higher dimensional energy to actually come down and translate into 3D energy, there has to be a translation process, because 5D energy and 3D energy are coded much differently. That translation is time. Time slows down, and that 5D energy has to be placed in a 3D container, which is your body. So you have to realize that as you're deciding what reality you want to live in, old versions of you will come up that have specific characteristics of who you were back then that might clash with a certain characteristic that you need to embody to achieve your desires. So things will come up that you have to deal with. You know, if you want to be successful and you're moving into that, but you have a lower ego and a version of who you are that has a lot of anxiety towards being creative, those two qualities are fighting over space. And no two frequencies can hold the same space. So one of those has to win, and that's where the shadow work comes in. So 3, you do the shadow work of all of your lower egos, but basically you do the shadow work of the mind that you had and the problems that your mind has caused you throughout your life. Because the mind has subconscious beliefs and ideas about who you are and how the world works, and that manifests into actual experiences. So you have to work on, you know, the computer program that is your mind, basically. Now, step 4 is moving into a knowing, is integrating your higher ego and your lower ego. So basically what you're going to do is, after you do the shadow work, you're going to create a new lower ego. You're going to create a new lower ego, a self-identity, a story of who you are, what you want, what you'll stand for, and an attitude, quite frankly, that holds that power, that is in reflection of the parallel reality you want to experience. If you're wanting to move into creating wealth and happiness, you would have to visualize in meditation or as you're awake a version of you, your body, actually living out all the things that you want to experience as if it's another person. And you're going to move your consciousness into that body by believing you're that story now. But in order for you to embody that story, you have to have, in order for you to embody a parallel reality, which is you seeing the world in a certain way, which is you aligning with a certain version of the earth, you have to then embody that same type of energy in yourself. So your personality has to be able to reflect that. And as you're creating a new lower ego, you have to involve all of the ideas and the knowing that you are an interdimensional soul, and all of the awareness of different reincarnations on different planets and as different humans on this planet, and all of your magical skills of being psychic and, you know, having the ability to heal, being able to use sound and smell and vibration to travel to different parts of the universe. And once you start making your own connections to the universe, your higher self will give you the proper magical skills that you would need at this point in your soul's evolution and what you're asking for with the integration and on Earth itself. So, you know, don't feel the need to overcompensate. And then when you're in your lower ego, when you're in your body and you're feeling the heaviness and the lower speed of this earth, you're going to want to bring the awareness of your soul a little bit in. It's almost like your body is the major and you have a minor coming in of your awareness of your soul, the 5D wisdom and knowledge that you have tapped into in those higher realms. Now, vice versa, the integration also is when you're in your higher self and you're in your higher ego and you're in the higher dimensions and you're speaking from that place of third eye and consciousness and awakening, and you're astral traveling or you're seeing energy in different realms, and all these things don't have to look a certain way. It's not going to be like you're going to hallucinate all of these things. It'll just be like you're sitting in a rainstorm and there's layers of rain or snow coming down, and if you were to focus on a raindrop or piece of snow that is 8 layers away while everything else is moving, that's how you have to picture feeling different dimensions. It's just you noticing what is happening behind the show, you noticing what is happening behind the TV. It's you diving into stuff like that. And when you're in that place and you're, you know, doing spell work, which is simply deciding what you want to happen in the quantum field. The quantum field, the energy field, pure energy itself, and the fertility of energy is a representation of the divine feminine. The divine masculine is what energetic information do you put into that field to then be created. Energetic information is simply a unique thought, a creative thought. You know, even a planet is a manifestation. A planet has the feeling of Mother Earth in it. It's a source. Mother Earth itself is a planet. And like other planets, the way it is created is you have a ball of energy in the center of the planet that is of a higher dimension. Then you put an energetic code or patterns of code based on the divine masculine, which is choosing and structure and decision. You put that into the orb, and now the Earth or planet will start to create solid material based on a reflection of what is put into the quantum field. So as you're in that higher place, you have to bring the awareness that, oh, there is this reincarnation that I'm in this body. Let me bring awareness to that. Let me heal that body. Let me send protection to that body. Let me make a stronger connection to that body and validate its existence in the matrix, validate the body that I have to take care of while I'm here and I have to have fun with. That's when you understand that your higher dimensional knowledge can be used in your body, and that is the whole purpose of you waking up in this body right now. Okay? So I want you guys to take some of this information in, go back, look at all the steps. If you have to write it out, do that too. And until next time, stay powerful. Stay in joy and simplicity at all costs. And remember, you are a god, you are a goddess. Your soul is magic itself. Never limit. Always go above the limitations.